Okay. Hey YouTube, got my shotgun here. This is my 20-inch Mossberg 500 A Alpha. Modifications to this: I modified the pump, added a pick rail, and put a little Burristonil TRS 25. Great little budget sight, good little budget sight, and a sling, just to hold it on your body. Anyway, beyond that, this is just really well worn in. But anyway, wanted to do a quick video because there was a YouTube video that got published within the last 24 hours from a YouTuber that I really highly respect, and he has a lot of great content talking about your home defense shotgun specifically and how to store it. In this, the YouTuber, who I'm not going to name, he didn't do anything wrong, I don't think. But I don't want this to be seen as like a personal attack or personal disagreement. So I'm just keeping his name out of it. If I change my mind later, I'll drop it in a comment, in a pinned comment down below, with a link to his channel. Because I do think he has a lot of really great information, and he's really entertaining, and respectful and everything. So I highly respect him. Anyway, he talks about cruiser ready. Now, let me just say, this gentleman is former law enforcement, and he has a lot of experience and a lot of training. I, on the other hand, have very little experience and much less training. No professional experience at all, and all of it is just amateur stuff that I've sought out myself. That said, I have a fundamental disagreement with the cruiser-ready storage of a shotgun. Let me dive into that, and I'll tell you why I disagree with it and what you can do differently. First off, what is cruiser-ready? The idea is that you have an empty chamber, slide forward, safety off, trigger pulled to unlock your slide, or your pump, I guess, and then a fully loaded tubular magazine. Number one, let's talk about the firearm safety rules. Rule number one, treat all guns as if they're loaded. Don't be horsing around with a gun. Don't pretend it's a toy. Don't think, hey, it's unloaded so I can treat it differently. I'm going to treat it the same way all the time. I get it. Sometimes you have to pull the trigger on an unloaded gun that you verified, triple-checked, whatever, that it's unloaded, like a Glock for disassembly, or to get a shotgun ready for cruiser-ready carry. But in this case, that's not necessary. Put a flag in that. We'll go back to it. Number two, never pull the trigger unless you're ready to shoot. If you're going to be loading your gun up for cruiser ready, preparing it, getting it ready to go, and you're here and you're like, okay, well, gun's empty, safety off, you better be damn sure that when you're pulling that trigger, if you made a mistake and if you accidentally loaded up that chamber, that when this gun goes off, boom, it's not going to destroy something that is precious and valuable. Right now, I'm aimed at an old speaker and a big, heavy dresser that I found on the side of the road at one point, and I was like, I'm going to get that back home, and my buddy had a truck and whatever. So if I destroyed that, that would suck. It would add splinters. My hearing would be all messed up. And I might get like splintery wood in my eyes or something, but it's not going to destroy something super valuable. It's not going to injure someone beyond me. So if you're in an apartment, if you're in a house with thin walls, if you're on the second floor and there's people downstairs on the first floor, or there's a window and your neighbors are across the street or whatever, you don't want to be doing this. You've got to make sure the gun's pointed in a safe direction all the time when you're loading and unloading, period. If you keep your finger off the trigger, keep out of that trigger guard, it's one more factor of safety that you don't have to worry about. Number two, the gun has an action release. Mossberg has it, behind the trigger guard, right here. Remington has it in front of the trigger guard. The Mossberg 500 and 590 have it behind. Remington 870 has it in front. Other guns are in different places. Learn where that is and learn how to use it. It's not any more difficult in a highly stressful situation to pick up the gun, empty chamber, but you haven't yet pulled the trigger, and do that. All I did was I wrapped my middle finger around the back of the trigger guard. If I was in a Remington, I would take my trigger finger and wrap it around the front. That's it. I've used both Remington and Mossberg. I personally prefer the Mossberg a little more. Remington's not bad. It works fine. I tend to prefer the controls on the Mossberg. The action release is something you're going to have to learn to use no matter what. It's administrative, that's fine. The only time you should ever, outside of training, the only time, let me make sure I'm empty, you should ever pull the trigger on an empty gun is when you have run out of ammo and you're like, click, oh no, there was nothing in there. That's the only time. Every other time on the Mossberg 500 and 590, you should be expecting a shot to happen when you pull that trigger. The next point says a safety. Now, what I do like is something this YouTuber was talking about was the use of the safety. Everything after you decide not to shoot, putting the safety back on, totally agree with what his point was. However, you should really be in the habit of having the safety on all the time unless you are ready to shoot. This is just like a 1911. This is just like an AR-15. I have one over there, that's why I'm pointing. This is just like any other firearm that has an optional safety. If you are running the safety, keep the safety on unless you're ready to shoot. So what this looks like is you pull the gun out of your closet, you rack it. Safety's still on at this point. You rack it, you load up a round. Now, you decide, oh crap, I need to shoot. That's how long it takes. I just took the safety off. Put the safety back on. You can do this while you're shouldering the gun. So you're not going to be walking around like this the whole time at the, low ready or something. And even then, like, you can hear that? That's it. Even if you decided to walk around at the low ready, you can have your thumb in the Mossberg on the safety, ready to go. You can shoot like this. You don't have to wrap your thumb and get like a death grip around the front, around the grip of the gun with your shooting hand. You can keep your thumb up top, and I actually prefer to do that. So, use the safety, learn how to use it. For the Remington 870, you actuate it with your trigger finger. And I wish I had a Remington that I could show you, but I don't. But you actuate it with your trigger finger. If you're right-handed, you push the safety that way. Use your manual, read your manual. And you deactivate it. Then you just put your finger inside the trigger guard, pull the trigger, you're good to go. For the Mossberg, deactivate, pull the trigger. And after you've pulled the trigger, the gun's fired, immediately rack it, get a new round. Assess the situation, I don't have to fire again, safety on. What I like to do is when I have the gun up, ready to go, safety comes off. When I take the gun off of my shoulder, safety goes back on. It's a pretty simple thing, but it's a habit you can get into all the time. If you leave the safety off when the gun's in storage, you're not in the habit of taking the safety off right before you shoot. Also, you could not be in the habit of remembering to put the safety back on. Get in the habit, use the safety, it's there for a reason. When it comes to muscle memory and learning how to use the gun, for the Mossberg, again, this is the action release. I'm going to, we are empty, I'm going to pull the trigger, and you're going to see that action release suck into the receiver. Let me see if I can highlight this for you. Ready? Let's see if we can do this. it's gone. Like, my hand is still here, and I'm still gonna cock the gun. My hand is here every time I try to cock that gun. My middle finger wraps around and I'm ready to go. Likewise, as you can kind of see, my index finger goes to that front of that trigger guard every single time I'm ready to cock that gun, as kind of just because I want to be familiar with the Remington as well. Learn to use the controls on your gun. Get really good with it. Cruiser ready is needlessly complicated for what you need to do. It's been taught for a long time. I think we can do better. That's it. Anyway, stay safe out there. If you guys have other techniques you want to recommend, go for it. Also, as long as the gun is stored in a safe location, like literally a safe, like a biometric safe or something, not just a trigger guard, I have no objection personally, as long as it's in like a legit metal box. I've got no objection to safety on, round chambered, fully loaded tube. That way, you don't have to worry about pumping the gun. You don't have to worry about this ridiculousness of, the bad guy's going to be scared off when I, make that sound. It's nothing. If I'm pulling my gun out, yes, I want to give everyone the opportunity to get out of the way of this and leave me in peace before I have to pull the trigger. But if it's that big of a deal, I'm not going to trust that that's going to deter someone who needs to be deterred. That should deter them enough. And if this sight, if the sight of this has not deterred them, I don't believe pumping a gun will. Stay safe out there, guys. See ya. For full disclosure, I don't keep that Mossberg that you just saw loaded, ready to go. That's not a home defense gun. That gun is unloaded in the back of my safe. I bring it out once a year. Unfortunately, that's all for trap and skeet shooting, and it is and always has been perfectly reliable. It's one of the few guns I have that has never had an issue at all. However, if I'm pulling out a shotgun, this is the one that I use. I would not give this to someone who is inexperienced with firearms, and I would not give this to someone who is inexperienced with a 12 gauge. This is something that is loaded up and is in my safe. If I feel like I need something that shoots buckshot, this is number 4 buck, but if I feel like I need something that shoots buckshot, I grab this. Personal preference. How this is loaded, I just pulled this out of my safe. How this is loaded is safety on, unloaded chamber. Can you see that? Unloaded chamber. I don't know if you can see it. Fully loaded tube. 5 in the tube. Nothing in the chamber. 5 more on a Velcro side saddle. 10 shots on board, ready to go. All I need to do if I need to get this thing hot, safety still on. That's it. Now this thing's hot. If I decide I don't want to use this, really carefully, returning an empty chamber. One more that I just pulled out of the chamber, back in the tube. That's it. Don't dick around with guns. This is something you gotta train, practice with dummy rounds, get really good. Stay off that trigger unless you're actually on target, ready to shoot. Also, I put an extended safety on here because, just double checking, because I want to be able to easily take the safety off and put the safety back on. Even for this gun that recoils a ton more than the one with the stock, I keep my thumb on that safety ready to take it off until I'm up on target, and then I pull it back. That's it. Stay safe, guys. See ya. I'm going to very quickly talk about how I keep an AR for home defense. First off, this guy does not stay in a closet. This does not stay anywhere else. This stays in my safe. If I had something where I thought I would need a quick access other firearm, like a rifle or a carbine or an other, like this, I would have this in a dedicated safe, like a hard metal lockable box, in a place that was more accessible than the large steel safe in my basement. That said, if I were to keep this, I have a fully, 28 round magazine, not 30. Gun is on safe, gun is cocked, so this is how it would just naturally be. You would never really drop the hammer on this gun. And what I would do, I would just put the magazine in the gun, make sure it's secure in there, but I would not keep the gun chambered. The reason for that is the firing pin inside of an AR-15 is free floating. This is a 300 blackout upper, but this is a standard AR-15 bolt carrier group. The firing pin is right inside here, and I can, with the bolt all the way back, I don't know if you can see it, that little pin out the front, that's the firing pin. With inertia, this thing can, as the bolt carrier goes forward, the firing pin, you can hear it, can rattle around in there and can actually cause the primer of the round that's in the chamber to be dented by that firing pin. Rechambering over and over and over again the same round, which the top round of your magazine is going to get rechambered over and over again, is not necessarily a good idea. Once it goes in the chamber, let it be. When it's time to take it out, drop the mag, pop that round out, put it in a bucket, put it somewhere else. It should not be rechambered again unless you're like at the range ready to go. Definitely not like in your basement. Okay? If you need to load up the gun, your magazine is in, your safety is on, pull the bolt, rack the bolt. That's it. Now, when it's time to shoot, safety off, pull the trigger. Just like every other gun. Once you're on target and you're ready to shoot, safety comes off. When you're off target, put your safety back on, drop the gun. You're no longer on target, your finger's off the trigger, safety goes back on. That's it. Stay safe out there, guys. See ya. Also, unloading, take the mag out, make sure nothing's in the chamber, safety back on, close the port, stow it safely. See ya.